Welcome to this week's workshop on using local storage in Google Tag Manager. Let's dive in. So before we dive in, just a minute about who I am. I'm Manisha Mistry. I'm an instructor at measureU. I became a measurement marketer in 2022. As an instructor at measureU, I work with our dedicated measurement management clients. I help them optimize their marketing. I help them make decisions based on their data. I'm actively supporting clients and members back there in measureU. So if you have a question and are in measureU, ask away. I'm always there to help. Love BigQuery, Analytics Canvas, and Looker Studio. So if you want to jam about those, hit me up. Alrighty, with any one of our videos, you want to remember one thing. The goal is not to grasp everything today. Grab one thing, go ride the bike, and then circle back and grab another one thing. Let's dive in to using local storage in Google Tag Manager. See you there. Alrighty, let's dive in. Now, why are we talking about local storage today? Well, most recently, our friends at Google made a tiny little change, and it was, communicated in the Tag Manager updates. So they said, hey, for the conversion linker, which is a Google thing, you don't need to worry about what it is and how it works. They're like, we're going to store the data in browser local storage in addition to first-party cookies. What does that mean? Okay, so let's head over to our measureU.com site. We're going to right-click. We're going to come all the way down and go to Inspect. I'm going to give it a second to load. This may load on the side for you. Totally fine. What this is our friendly Chrome DevTools. When you come into DevTools, you're going to head on over to Application if you want to look at cookies or local storage. I'm actually going to close this off so you can look at this all closed. Hold on. Okay. So there are a couple of different things here. The first thing you will see is local storage. The next thing you might be familiar with, if you've watched any of our training on cookies, you may be familiar with cookies. So cookies are little breadcrumbs you can drop, right? You could drop a cookie that says, hey, this person's internal traffic. GA4 drops a cookie to say, here's your GID, right? Here it is, right? Cookies are great. The downside with cookies is users like me have little Chrome extensions like this. Click on this, and I could delete all my cookies in a heartbeat. So sometimes what you may want to do is, in addition to storing a value that you want to grab in another session, in cookies, you may want to store it in something called local storage. What is local storage? So just like cookies, you're going to come into local storage and you're going to click on your domain. And here you have some different values, right? So here it's giving you just different, local storage items. It's storing in local storage, and it's saying, hey, here's the value. You may want to have a value in here so that if the cookie is not there because users like me did the fun delete thing, you can go grab it from local storage. Local storage does exist session over session. The key with local storage is it's not sending it back to any servers. It is a browser-based storage system. However, it is still useful sometimes to have a value in here in addition to having it in cookies, just like our friends at Google did for the conversion linker. So now your question is, how do I get a value in here? And then once I have a value in here, how do I get it out and send it with GA4 for an event or something like that? So let's dive into Google Tag Manager and do that together. So here we are in our quick start GTM training. We're not going to use our measureU site. I'm actually going to close that off and close that off. The site we're going to work with today is measurementmarketing.io/demo. This is our demo site. It is available to anybody on the internet. You can access it, you can visit it, right? It happens to be one of the sites that Julie, myself, and Mercer, and many of us at measureU train with. So I'm going to hop into Google Tag Manager. I'm going to come into tags. So the first question is, well, how do I get a value in local storage? So if I again right click, go to inspect, hop on over to application, hop on over to local storage, and come into measurementmarketing.io. So right now, here's all the information in local storage. Let's say I wanted to store a value in here that told me the type of traffic, okay? And let's say we want it to be like, hey, if they include UTMs that say tests, then make type of traffic internal, or if they don't, then make it external. So let's do a simple version of that. So the first thing you want to do is come to tags. Remember, your tags are your what. We're going to click on new. We're going to click on the gray circle. We're going to come down here and look for custom HTML. Now, we will give you this code, so no worries and pausing and typing. We will include this in the workshop notes so you have it handy. I'm actually just going to paste a little bit of code in here. what does this mean, right? So this is definitely one of those like, hey, you're pasting this code here. What does this mean? Okay, so what does this mean? I'm actually going to flip this and make this key and value. All this is saying is, hey, go into local storage and set this item. This item has a key. Hop on over here. Key is the name. And this key has a value. This is the value. So hop on here. So I'm actually going to say traffic type. And I'm not going to muck around with variables or anything like that right now. I'm actually just going to put the word internal in here. Now, you could use variables in here. You could level this up any way you want. We're just going to go good enough to get going to kind of show you how local storage works. And the trigger's the one. I'm literally just going to say, only fire this. That took a second to load and my heart stopped. I'm going to say come in here and come in here. I'm going to say page view, but we only want it on page views where page URL contains test. Okay. And I'm going to say this is just kind of good enough to get going here. I'm going to do a page view. Page URL contains test. Okay, so what we're saying here, I'm giving this a second to load, is basically when the page URL contains the word test, then set this traffic type to internal. Okay, and then we like to name this as C HTML. Why? Because it's custom HTML dash local storage. And we are going to say, I want to make sure I have my spaces right, traffic type internal. You want descriptive names so that if Julie or Mercer or Sarah came back here, they'd be able to know what this does. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to grab this URL. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go preview. I am going to have, oh, that URL is there. I'm going to go UTM equal UTM source equals test. I'm just going to do this and go connect. Let's see what happens. Alrighty, so first we want to TBV, trust but verify our tag fire. So come into here. You can start on summary, but you can also walk through these, which is always good to do to kind of walk through them and see. Okay, so we see it fired. We see it fired and it set a value. How do you TBV the value set? Back to your page. And I'm giving it a second because for some reason it's taking a second to load. Right click. Come in here, inspect. Come back to application. Come back to, oop, I went a little too fast there, didn't I? Here, and let's go look for it. Let's look for it together. See, traffic type internal. So if for any reason I had a cookie for traffic type and I had local storage and you had a user like me who likes to delete her cookies every 5 seconds, the nice thing is local storage would also persist session over session. Now that we got a value into local storage, how do you get a value out of local storage? So we also got a little bit of code for you. So I'm going to close this down. I'm going to close this down. I'm going to come back to Google Tag Manager. So remember, tags triggers variables. You want to use variables as then you can pass the variable on with any other tag in your Google Tag Manager. You're going to come down, not built in. You're going to come to user defined, click on new, come down here, click on that gray circle, come here, custom JavaScript variable. Little bit of JavaScript code for you. What does this say? This says basically go look in local storage and get the value, and you just put the key name here. So I'm literally going to make sure I spell it properly. I believed I called it traffic type. Now, you don't want to do something like this or something like this or the fact that I left a spelling mistake there in case you caught that. You want to make sure it's spelled exactly how it is in local storage because it needs that. And then you can do custom JavaScript, CJS, and you can say traffic type. Now, what you may want to do, and we like to do this, is put that this is local storage. So you know this is local storage, so somebody doesn't need to open up the variable to figure out what it does, right? So on preview, on viewing this, they can be like, custom JavaScript, local storage, traffic type. Got it. Okay, so let's go preview. Let's hop on back in there. And we're just giving it a second to load. And at this time, we're going to come back here. We're going to click on continue. We're going to come over to container loaded. So we know it fired. Come to our variables. Here we go. It's set to internal. So it will go grab whatever the value is in there. Now, the way local storage usually gets deleted, note it is only at the browser level, but you'd have to come into here, go to inspect, come on over into application, Come on into local storage, find that value. I'm just looking for it. Bear with me for 1 second. Click on it, right click, and click delete. And now that value doesn't exist anymore in local storage. Alrighty, what was your one thing? Was it that local storage is even an option and that you have this idea of having local storage as a backup for the values you're storing in cookies? Highly recommend using it, as that way if somebody does delete their cookies, you can lean on local storage. If you found the content helpful for today, hit subscribe so you can stay tuned for more content. Finally, if you want to join the Academy Insiders, measureU, where you can hit myself, Julie, Mercer, and many of our great instructors questions, you can watch our courses and join the community, go to measureU.com/workshops. So there you have it. That's using local storage in Google Tag Manager.